Welcome back in live to another episode of ROC Boys Football. We're continuing with our 2022 NFL Draft Big Board. Our first episode on the Big Board was our top 5 prospects. We're doing the next 5, 6 through 10. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. It looks like we have a consensus on that 6th overall prospect, Charles Cross. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, I know we talked about him in our tackles video, but just a really polished kind of pro-ready pass protector is kind of how I see him. Great athlete, smooth, technical, didn't give up much in the SEC. So, he's played with the big dogs. I mean, people knocking him for size. I don't know, 310 is probably where he's going to play around, and that to me is no problem. Like I don't know. I think there's probably more guys of that size than like a Trent Williams, because it's really hard to be functional at the 6'6", 350 plus kind of range. So
yeah. And that's why
I don't know. I think you're getting a plug and play guy ready to rock and roll.
And that's why Evan Neal is a guy who is a top 3 prospect. He actually, I'm very close to putting him at my number 1 prospect, to be honest with you. That being said, Charles Cross, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Super smooth. That's the biggest thing between him and Icky, who a lot of people are waffling on. Yes, Akemakwanu has that kind of elite size and power, but Charles Cross is just smooth as butter in his pass sets, has tremendous balance, always squares up on his guys. And I think he's just super polished. You said it. Mississippi State offense, he's doing a lot of pass pro. He's NFL ready in pass protection, which is the most important part of being a left tackle.
Yeah, not like tripping on whether he can run block at an elite level. I don't know. That's just not what you're drafting in elite tackles at this point.
Yeah, and I have Akemakwanu getting into our next one at 8. I guess at 7. I have them honestly right next to each other, and I think you could pick them depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get more downhill with the run game, like a Ravens, what they try to do is clearly establish that run. Maybe like Tennessee Titans would be another team like that.
Yeah.
If you're more like the Bills, who are throwing the ball a lot, and you're sitting in a pocket and you're trying to protect your quarterback, Charles Cross might be the pick. So I really think you could go either or with these guys. I think they're both really good. I think Icky probably specializes a little bit more in the run game as opposed to Charles Cross, and Charles Cross is a better pass protector and maybe not as much of a mauler in the run game. And that's
I'm not going to argue with you on Akemakwanu. Again, I think like deceptively athletic. Like he doesn't. When you look at the body, you're like, I wouldn't guess he moves as well as he does. But a guy who, he didn't show much issues, especially this year in the pass pro game. But a little worry is as his year before this year. I don't think he was as strong. Like Charles Cross has kind of had 2 dominant years.
And he was transitioning, to be fair, because they did have him in at guard and then they moved him out to tackle, and so probably a little bit of a learning curve. But you saw that come full swing this year. And
it's fair. I just there's like that concern still somewhat lingers. Like, does he have the true like Charles Cross elite athleticism and elite pass pro ability? And I don't disagree. I think he, at worst, you're going to get a really good right tackle with good power and a kind of an elite run blocker. But just because of kind of what maybe you saw, is he a senior now or is he coming out as a junior?
I believe he's a 4th-year guy.
So as like maybe his junior year, you maybe didn't see the same level of production. Let's just say the 2020 season for the sake of accuracy, but that's the only real worry. And again, I have him at 10, so I'm not like hating on Akemakwanu. I think there are top 3 tackles, and he's certainly easily in that list.
Yeah. Let's talk about, while this is loading, let's talk about your next prospect, which surprised me when I logged on to see this. Chris Olave coming in at 7 for you.
It pains me to do it. Like these Ohio State wideouts, though, they can play. And
he's 2019, so he's a 3rd year, actually.
Okay, so either way, but just the same place. But for Olave, I don't know. You just watch the guy for 4 straight years, and he seemed to not make a single mistake. He's always open. He was always productive.
Yeah.
He was always playing. He's just like, I don't know, and I think he is much better with the ball in his hand than people give him credit for. I think people like to jump up his running mate Garrett Wilson as being the better playmaker, but God, I think he's less of a flashy runner, but he gets the job done running with the ball, and he made big explosive plays and catches everything. So
Chris Olave is about as steady as they come, and you have to be when you're breaking total touchdown receptions at a program like Ohio State, who's seen just some absolutely stud wide receivers such as Michael Thomas go through that program, and he's at the top of the leaderboard. Um, Says
yeah,
something about him.
and I'll never get it. Like, I don't know if the stink of he wasn't a super high recruit compared to what Ohio State brings in. So he came in, he was like maybe the underdog in the room, playing as a freshman, playing as a sophomore, playing a junior, playing as a senior. So it's like he's been producing forever. Just I don't know. I've not seen him do anything, make mistakes. He can make contested catches. He just does everything. And yeah, he's maybe not Randy Moss, but like
The reason I have
I don't
Garrett
know. The
Wilson and
guy's
our
just so
Will,
good.
the reason I'll have Garrett Wilson's actually going to come in at 11 for me. I gave Carl Aftis a nod, and I still am waffling, and it still might change.
Idiot.
We'll
Do you
get to
think
Carl
this is the
Aftis. I'll tell you what
70s?
I see in him. But yeah, Chris Olave's his floor is going to be so high. I really don't see this guy being like a bust. No, neither do I see Garrett Wilson. I just see Garrett Wilson as a little bit higher of a ceiling when it comes to being a playmaker. And I'm not saying that's not necessarily a knock on Chris Olave. I just think Garrett Wilson has that it factor about him. And I'll have Olave 12. I mean, I have those guys paired up similarly to Charles Cross and Icky. Like,
Yeah.
if you take Olave over Wilson, I'm not gonna fault you one bit. Both guys are studs and both produced. I think Wilson has a little bit more of that upside that you're looking for in comparison to Olave. Let's get into our next. We both are moving on to our eighth best prospect. I have Tyler Linderbaum from Nakobe Dean at my spot. You have Nakobe Dean and your big board. Tell me what you see in Nakobe Dean's game that has him as a top 10 prospect as a backer.
I mean, to start it off, he was the alpha dog on a defense that had 10 potential alpha dogs. So it's like I feel like he does have the middle linebacker leadership you want.
Oh yeah, he does.
Did control the defense. Obviously a great unit. Didn't see him out of position. Granted, they also were wildly more talented than everybody else. But I don't know. I think what you see is just the ability to go sideline to sideline, a really physical tackler, didn't give up much in coverage. But probably the biggest thing is the intent. Like, you just know you're going to get a middle linebacker who's going to do it right, be kind of your defensive coordinator on the field. And that's important along with, I mean, the play to me is kind of obvious. You know, you see him running down wideouts. You see him on pitches and runs the outside, just screaming and flying up, making impact tackles. So
I mean, he beats guys on offense to the spot before they even get to the spot. And that's at least what I saw in Michigan is like, I mean, we're trying to get these like slip screens and stuff, and he's there. I mean, like he's so fast at diagnosing plays, has phenomenal instincts. And what you said, I mean, at the end of the day, your middle linebackers, he's a signal caller, he's a leader on that defense, and you're getting an elite leader. I'll never forget when he chews out Channing Tindall for not dropping back in his zone coverage the right way. The next play, Channing, and it's like all constructive, chews him out. Next play, Channing Tindall, huge sack to force a field goal. I mean, it's just that type of stuff, the intangibles that I love about Nakobe Dean. That's why I have him 9. And again, he's a linebacker. In a year, you saw Micah Parsons do phenomenal. I think Nakobe Dean can bring that type of value to an NFL defense, and that's why I have.
Yeah, I think he can like rewire everybody. Just his attitude.
Yeah.
And the final thing is when the only knock on him is like size and length and whatever.
Yeah,
like,
the
guy wasn't playing at like a low D1 or D3 school. It's like he was playing against other pros and he was dominating.
Yeah, well, like the size doesn't matter because for one, he's just as physical as any linebacker you'll see, and he just wins with the speed too and in his instincts. You can have a Brandon Smith, a guy who has all the size and athleticism in the world, and not seeing the field that well, and he's going to be late to spots. You can be the strongest and fastest guy in the field, and you're not going to be a good linebacker. Not to say Brandon Smith's not a good linebacker, but there's some flaws you see in his game that just aren't there in Nakobe Dean's. So I love him too. I had Tyler Linderbaum edging him out. I don't need to speak much about this dude. I think he is probably the best prospect as a whole. when you factor in positional value, I have him sitting at 8 overall. He's pretty much any team that drafts him is going to get a day one starter and an all pro guy, I think. He could legitimately start at center for, I think, almost any NFL team right now. It's what you see he's done at Iowa has just been so impressive. I get he's a center. It's one of the lower valued positions, which I think is a reason why he'll probably fall to around that 15 range. But whoever gets him, man, I think he's going to go to like a playoff contender who's like, they're a good team. They just need another piece, and he's going to be another piece that's going to help a team. You see how Creed Humphrey's been doing for Kansas City. Tyler Linderbaum is going to give you that and more, I think, and that's why I have him at
that's the tough part is like you
How you
see
weigh
that
that
he's one
position
of the
value.
best interior linemen I've seen in like years. I feel like just in terms of athleticism and power and the combo, and God, he didn't give up anything in pass pro, even at the size, whatever. Again, another guy you saw him dominating pros. So
Legitimately hard to watch his film and say like, oh, that's a bad play of his. Like it's just like
he's
so
a monster.
good.
Though it's just what you kind of mentioned, the position value. For me, it's like
Knocks him out of your top 10.
it's very, and now that I'm saying it, I feel like it's kind of stupid because like watching what an elite guard or center can do, especially a guard, which I guess is one thing. I don't know what he's going to play in the NFL, but I feel like guards can have more of an impact. Like you see what Quentin Nelson at the Colts does, or what Zach Martin was doing at his peak. Like those guys were weapons.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm almost talking myself into him, but for me, it's still Garrett Wilson. Guy's sick. Again, another guy who, for the position value and what I think he's going to be able to do for a team, you need to make big plays. Big plays are a great way to score points because sustaining drives is clearly hard, and there might be none better in the game than Garrett Wilson in terms of the ability to make circus catches and run with the ball. He's an elite athlete, obviously, and
also just he's a pretty polished route runner. Like he runs good routes.
Like what Pete Odell was.
Yeah, 100%.
Is what you kind of hope you get Garrett Wilson.
You got that it factor. That's what we've been saying in all our videos. Or I've been saying, and I think it's there. And I agree. I mean, I have Garrett Wilson. He'll probably be coming in right after Karlaftis, and I'm not even positive I'll have George Karlaftis in it. And that's our last prospect we have to talk about for today's episode. George Karlaftis, the Iron Man from Purdue. He cracks my top 10.
I couldn't play a single season even close to.
That was a problem. That was a little bit of a problem.
He's top. I'll give you that. Like he's
tough
a physical,
nails, and I think you know what you're gonna get. I think you like his get off is great for a guy who's 275, 280 pounds, and he's probably the most powerful, pure power edge rusher that we have. I think you can play him kind of all along the defensive line. And when you have that elite power, you're going to be a problem. To an extent, you're going to be a problem. That being said, I don't have him as a top 5 prospect as I do Aiden Hutchinson, Kevin Thibodeau, because he doesn't have that bend, the ability to win kind of other than that, just kind of raw power. That being said, I think you could maybe add some of that technique to his game. And I just think it's another guy whose floor is low. Or high, I should say. The floor is high. The ceiling might be a little lower, but the floor is high. Like, you're going to get a tough as nails defensive lineman who's going to play hard in the run game, and he's going to collapse pockets. He's not necessarily going to win with the speed rush, but he's going to push that tackle right back into the lap.
I don't know. Just when have you ever seen an elite defensive end be maybe lack the athletic traits he has? Like, I mean, I don't think Joey Bosa is a phenomenal. Like, he's not the athlete Nick is, I don't think. But again, it's like I see like enough bend and to pair with the power and the physicality.
Yeah, he's definitely a heavier-handed D end. Yeah, no Von Miller. Like he's more like a Mario Addison for the Bills, and yeah, maybe it is a little high for him. But I
guess it's that if you think he has like enough of the athleticism to. Like I think you need some sort of floor of it. And
I think it's
I don't know. I feel like he's sitting right around it, but there's a
little bit of like what you're gonna get, and this guy's gonna be a rock solid dude in your defense. And there's something to be said about that when rookies have so many question marks surrounding their game. George Karlaftis doesn't have that many besides their ability, which I guess could be one
Yeah,
that I
well, that's
could
probably.
grapple with. And talking about guys like Garrett Wilson, who we're seeing these rookie wideouts come in and legitimately change how offenses are performing. Jamar Chase, Jay Jettas, to name a few. Maybe Garrett Wilson is the number 10 prospect. We're seeing rookie wideouts who I'd be like, oh my, I was screaming for why the Bengals didn't take Penei Sewell, and I
Yeah,
was wrong. That's why I don't get
obviously
paid the
you're
big
all wrong.
bucks. And so maybe I'll rethink it, but as of right now, I've been impressed enough with his film to give him the nod at 10. I could certainly see him being knocked down a few. I also really like Kenyon Green's game. He was also kind of in that fringe
Hmm.
top 10 prospect. There's a lot of guys. There's a Gary Wilson, Kenyon Green.
Yeah, I think outside the top five, it does get a little like, and I get that's kind of every year.
That's
It's like there are
fact.
some.
This is like the clear top five. We both had the same players in our top five, and now we're seeing some deviation. You'll continue to see some deviation as me and Dill have just not agreed on some prospects, and that's part of the business.
Like the only guy in our top five you could possibly argue is the Stingley, maybe. And if you're gonna be like a hater, like
I'm a
you haven't
Stingley
seen
believer.
enough in the last couple of years, but it's like God,
I
you
watched
get
I watched his highlights from his highlights, just going to bed, chilling, no film of what he did in
if you get that
2019 his true
version of
freshman year, and
Stingley,
his
what a
ball
weapon.
skills are disgusting. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's review on our next five prospects. We'll be releasing our 11 through 15 later this week, and we're gonna try to build out a 150 to 300 big board as you get through more and more guys on film. You try to watch at least 2 or 3 games before we really start adding these guys into our list. As usual, appreciate you guys rocking with us, and we look forward to having some more content out soon. Take it easy, y'all. Peace.